During joint NATO special operations training, Polish GROM operators executed a live-fire close-quarters battle drill in which assaulters moved through a kill house firing live rounds within inches of role-playing hostages, transitioning between targets at a speed and proximity margin that American Delta Force operators described as reckless until every round landed exactly where it was supposed to. GROM's training methodology, born from decades of operating under Soviet surveillance with zero margin for institutional failure, produces operators who rehearse with live ammunition at distances and speeds that most Western units simulate but never replicate. The drill did not just impress Delta Force. It forced a quiet reassessment of where the line between precision and aggression actually sits. On July 13, 1990, a classified decree, Rozkaz 00190, authorized the immediate formation of a new Polish Special Operations Unit outside the regular military structure. Its name, GROM, meaning thunder, signaled both speed and a connection to Poland's wartime resistance. Colonel Sławomir Petelicki, an experienced intelligence officer, was chosen to lead, drawing inspiration from General Edwin Rozlubierski, whose calls for a counter-terror force had gone unanswered through the 1980s. Suddenly, the need was undeniable. The trigger was Operation Sejmum, a covert mission just weeks earlier. Polish operatives had risked everything to extract CIA officers and Western assets from Iraq as the Gulf War approached. In return, the United States forgave $8 billion of Poland's debt and offered technical support, a deal struck quietly, understood only in security circles. Sejmum revealed a dangerous gap. Poland had no unit ready for fast secret intervention in high-risk situations. Political leaders, still wary from years under Soviet control, saw GROM as a tool for missions where failure was not an option and deniability was essential. Petelicki understood the stakes. With the Soviet bloc collapsing, Polish interests abroad faced new threats, from Beirut to Baghdad. GROM would operate where intelligence, direct action, and counterterrorism met, a role conventional forces couldn't fill. The legal order establishing GROM was kept secret, shielded from public debate, but its purpose was clear: to create a force answering only to the highest authorities, built for the most sensitive missions. GROM's birth was a direct response to the risks Poland faced on NATO's edge, forged in secrecy as the world around it shifted. British, Israeli, and American influences converged on GROM almost from the start, shaping a doctrine that would soon set the unit apart within NATO. In 1991, just months after its secret formation, GROM sent its first cadre to train alongside the British SAS at Aldershot during Exercise Harrier. SAS instructors introduced Polish operators to the concept of precision under pressure, small unit patrolling, reconnaissance, and the measured application of force. The lessons went beyond tactics. They seeded a mindset that valued deliberate planning and surgical restraint, even in chaotic environments. By 1993, another exchange took GROM officers to Israel's Sayeret Matkal training center near Jerusalem. Here, the focus shifted to intelligence-driven direct action and the relentless tempo of night vision assaults. Israeli instructors emphasized rapid breaching and the use of non-lethal incapacitation, pushing GROM to master dynamic entry and close-quarters coordination. The experience left a clear mark. GROM began integrating flashbangs, tactical illumination, and team choreography into its kill house routines, elements that would later become trademarks of its live-fire drills. American mentorship arrived through a series of bilateral exercises and NATO events throughout the mid-1990s. During Exercise Cannon in 1995 and Operation Eagle Eye in 1997, GROM worked side by side with Delta Force and DEVGRU. The Americans brought with them a culture of high-risk realism, live-fire CQB, advanced medical evacuation protocols, and the expectation that assaulters would operate with lethal intent but absolute control. After-action reviews from these exchanges documented GROM's rapid adaptation, noting how Polish teams fused the patience of the SAS, the aggression of Matkal, and the technical discipline of Delta into a single, hybrid approach. By the end of the decade, GROM's training floors echoed with the rhythms of three doctrines, but the unit's emerging identity was unmistakably Polish: aggressive precision, honed by foreign mentors, refined by necessity. A force measured in hundreds, not thousands, GROM's entire operational and support strength hovers between 350 and 400 personnel. This is a fraction of the manpower fielded by many Western counterparts, yet every name on the roster represents the final survivor of a selection funnel designed to reject all but the most adaptable. The process begins with a physical gauntlet. A 2-kilometer ruck march carrying 45 kilograms must be finished in under 12 minutes, followed by a 12-hour land navigation ordeal and a swimming test that eliminates candidates unprepared for amphibious operations. But physical endurance is only the first threshold. Candidates then enter a psychological screening phase, facing polygraph interviews and stress tolerance tests intended to surface any sign of instability or divided loyalty. The field trial that follows, a continuous 48-hour ordeal, combines urban navigation, weapons handling, and evasion under observation. Only 5 to 10% of applicants complete the full cycle and earn a place in the training pipeline. The resulting teams are small by design, built for rapid deployment and mutual trust. Direct action, reconnaissance, hostage rescue, and instructor cadres are distributed across 4 main subunits, each with its own specialization but all cross-trained to switch roles as needed. The selection process, lasting 12 to 18 months, is not just about physical or technical skill. It is a sustained filter for judgment under pressure, a search for individuals who can maintain composure when the margin for error vanishes. The pass rate, sometimes as low as 5%, reflects a philosophy that values reliability over raw numbers. This relentless winnowing feeds directly into GROM's training intensity. With such a compact roster, every operator is expected to maintain proficiency across multiple weapon systems and mission profiles. The same selectivity that limits headcount also drives ammunition consumption. Each operator expends roughly 1,200 rounds of 5.56mm NATO and 300 rounds of 9mm per training cycle, a rate 30% higher than the average among NATO's Tier 1 units. The manpower equation is simple. Fewer operators, but more rounds downrange, more hours in the kill house, and more time spent rehearsing scenarios where a single misstep could mean disaster. This is the human foundation behind the live-fire realism that would soon draw the attention and unease of even the most seasoned American special operators. A steel door blows inward. The first GROM assaulter crosses the threshold, muzzle already tracking, as live rounds crack through plaster and ricochet off reinforced walls. In the Seattle training complex, the kill house is built to punish hesitation. 3 rooms, 8 meters by 4 meters, each designed to force a decision at full speed. The scenario is simple in outline, but ruthless in execution. Breach, clear, rescue. But the details, these are what set GROM apart. At the heart of the drill, 2 hostages stand pressed against a wall, just 30 centimeters from the fatal funnel of the doorway. The distance is not a mistake or a shortcut. It is doctrine, codified in GROM's training philosophy as controlled recklessness, the deliberate acceptance of risk to harden operators for the kind of chaos where error is measured in centimeters, not meters. Every round is live, every movement is real. The team's advance is a blur. Targets identified and neutralized in under 2 seconds. Assaulters passing within arm's reach of role players, whose only protection is a ballistic suit and trust in the shooter's discipline. The entire evolution, from breach to secured hostages, averages 28 seconds. There is no room for controlled recklessness, no time for second guessing. The volume of fire is staggering. During a typical week, each operator will expend between 3,000 to 5,000 rounds, more than some entire police departments in a year. The rationale is simple. Only relentless repetition at the edge of lethality can produce the kind of muscle memory that survives actual combat. The drill is overseen by range officers armed and ready to intervene, with ballistic curtains and medical teams waiting just out of sight. But the real safety mechanism is cultural, not technological. GROM's instructors demand absolute trust in the team, a trust earned through a selection process that filters out anyone who cannot remain calm with a live muzzle inches from their body. Delta Force operators, seasoned by decades of their own high-risk training, watch from behind ballistic glass. Their reaction is quiet but telling. The drill, they later report, is the most aggressive live-fire scenario they have witnessed in NATO. What to some looks reckless, to GROM is simply realism, proof that, for a unit forged on the margins of European security, the line between acceptable risk and necessary preparation is not a fixed boundary, but a moving target. The question lingers: is this the future of special operations training, or a step too far? For GROM, the answer is written in spent brass and unbroken focus. In Iraq, GROM's doctrine faced its first real test under fire. During the 2003 assault on Qasr, Polish teams led the clearance of the port's weapons depot, executing a room-by-room advance that finished in less than 30 seconds per breach. After action reports from the Polish Ministry of Defense noted 0 civilian casualties, a rare outcome in urban operations of that scale. The same methods surfaced again in Afghanistan. In Helmand Province, Operation Falcon 2 called for a hostage rescue from a fortified school. GROM's entry team breached, cleared, and secured the building in 27 seconds, freeing all hostages without injury. American JSOC commanders reviewing the footage highlighted the Polish unit's ability to maintain control at a tempo most Western teams would consider reckless. From 2012 to 2018, GROM operators rotated through joint JSOC task forces, targeting Iranian-linked networks across the Middle East. In these missions, GROM was consistently assigned the most complex breaches, rooms packed with non-combatants, high-value targets, and little margin for error. Internal JSOC commendations placed GROM among the top 5 NATO special operations units, citing a 30% success rate on high-value target raids. The pattern was clear. The same controlled aggression that defined GROM's kill house drills translated into battlefield results, forcing Allied commanders to reconsider where the boundary between realism and risk truly lay. Internal safety audits from the Polish Ministry of Defense document 4 non-fatal live-fire incidents at the GROM training center between 1995 and 2022. The mishap rate, 0.3 incidents per 1,000 training hours, sits just below the 0.4 per 1,000 hours, recorded in declassified United States Delta Force logs over a similar period. These numbers challenge the assumption that GROM's aggressive, high-volume, live-fire approach inevitably leads to more accidents. In fact, the data suggest otherwise. Despite training at margins most units would consider unacceptable, GROM's incident rate remains on parity with, or slightly better than, its American counterpart. For Delta Force veterans observing the Seedlitz drill, the most striking feature wasn't just the proximity of live fire to role players, it was the consistency of control under pressure. Mike H., a former Delta operator, described the scene as the most realistic live-fire scenario I have ever witnessed, noting that what would be flagged as reckless in the United States was executed in Poland with unwavering discipline. Safety officers from both sides scrutinized every round, every movement. Their after-action reviews acknowledged the risk, but also the results. No catastrophic injuries, no breakdown in team coordination, and a mishap rate that defied expectations. The debate inside the United States Special Operations community became less about whether GROM's methods were too dangerous, and more about whether American standards had grown too conservative. The numbers forced a reckoning. If Polish operators could maintain this level of realism without an unacceptable rise in accidents, perhaps the boundaries of risk and realism needed to be redrawn. NATO's internal debate over live-fire realism gathered momentum in the months after the Seydlitz drill. Minutes from the Allied Command Transformation Working Group record a divided room. French and Dutch special operations officers argued that the Polish approach, with hostages positioned just 40 centimeters from the breach point, delivered decision-making speed that simulations could not match. American safety advisors, referencing the U.S. Army's own 50-centimeter minimum, pressed for stricter boundaries. The resulting draft, STANAG 6001-2, attempted to bridge the divide. For the first time, a standardized protocol recognized the legitimacy of high-risk, high-realism CQB, provided that medical teams, ballistic suits, and real-time monitoring were in place. The Training Realism clause, inserted at the urging of Polish and British delegates, codified the right for member units to pursue live fire drills that mirrored operational threats, so long as incident rates stayed within alliance norms. NATO commanders reviewing the final text acknowledged that the alliance was no longer content to let safety margins define the upper limit of readiness. GROM's doctrine had forced a reckoning. The willingness to train at the edge was now written into policy, not just practiced in secret. The ripple effect extended beyond Poland, prompting a new conversation about the roots of risk tolerance and the cultural inheritance that shapes how elite units prepare for war. In Warsaw during the Second World War, the Home Army, Armia Krajowa, fought a clandestine war that demanded absolute resolve. Underground fighters, often outgunned and outnumbered, staged sabotage missions and urban ambushes with almost no margin for error. Their legacy was not just in tactics, but in a culture of risk, operations where hesitation meant capture or death, and where the line between bravery and recklessness blurred by necessity. Among these fighters, the Sukhomny, the silent unseen, stood out. Parachuted from Britain into occupied Poland, they trained for months in sabotage, demolition, and close-quarters battle, only to face missions where survival was measured in seconds. Their ethos, forged in the Warsaw Uprising and countless covert actions, was simple. Failure was not an option, and the cost of caution was often paid in blood. This wartime inheritance did not fade with victory or defeat. Instead, it became a quiet doctrine, passed down through decades of Soviet surveillance and repression. For Poland, a nation whose security was never guaranteed by treaties alone, the willingness to accept extreme risk became part of the national defense DNA. GROM's founders drew directly from this tradition. Instructors invoked the memory of the Home Army and Sukhomny as a living mandate, not just a symbol. Training scenarios echoed the desperation and improvisation of wartime resistance, urban kill houses, dynamic breaching, and live fire drills that left no room for error. Historians point to this continuity as the reason GROM's operators display such comfort at the edge of lethality. In their doctrine, the acceptance of risk is not bravado, but a calculated response to the realities of Poland's geography and history. The same logic that drove resistance fighters to act with controlled recklessness now shapes the philosophy of a modern special operations unit tasked with defending a vulnerable frontier. Poland's defense allocation has surged past 4% of GDP in 2024, the highest within NATO. Over 360 million euros now flows directly to special operations, with a significant share earmarked for GROM's continued modernization. This financial commitment is not just a matter of national pride. It reflects a strategic calculation about the vulnerabilities of NATO's eastern flank. The Polish Ministry of Defense has prioritized procurement of advanced rifles like the HK-416 and SIG-MCX, modular breaching tools, and next-generation optics, all intended to support high-intensity live-fire training and rapid deployment. Defense Minister Mariusz Blaszczak recently underscored this direction, stating, "Our special operations forces are not only a deterrent, but a guarantee of immediate response to any threat on our borders." This doctrine is more than rhetoric. GROM's mission set is expanding to include near-peer conflict preparation, stay-behind reconnaissance, and hybrid warfare operations, tasks that demand both technical sophistication and the psychological edge honed in their notorious kill house drills. NATO's internal assessments now consistently rank GROM among the alliance's top 5 special operations units, citing both operational performance and doctrinal innovation. The adoption of the STENAG 6001-2 protocol, which formalizes high-realism CQB standards, is a direct outcome of Polish advocacy. GROM's approach has become a template for NATO's rapid response special operations concept, with the 2025 alliance strategy explicitly referencing Polish training methodology. As regional security challenges intensify, GROM stands as both a warning and a model, a unit forged by history, now shaping the alliance's future posture. Across NATO, the debate over how much risk for how much realism is no longer theoretical. As Russian maneuver battalions mass near Poland's borders, GROM's drill, once dismissed as reckless, now shapes doctrine at the alliance's sharpest edge. In special operations, acceptable risk is a moving target. Today, the line GROM walks may define what survival looks like for the next crisis. Share your perspective in the comments below.